Hello, everyone again. I'm going to call the meeting to order at 12:16 p.m. We'll start with our territorial acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge that the SFSS is located on the traditional, unceded territories of the Coast Salish peoples, including the Musqueam, Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, Coquitlam, and Katzie nations. Unceded means that these territories have never been handed over, sold, or given up by these nations, and we are currently situated on occupied territories. And now we'll move on to roll call of attendance. So I'll start with myself. My name is Vaibhav, and I am VP Events and Student Affairs. My pronouns are he, him, his, and my access needs are met. Next on the list is our ex officio, Helen.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Helen. I use she, her pronouns. All my access needs are met today. I will need to head out at 1 o'clock, however. Thank you.
Thanks, Helen. Next on our list is Physics Student Association Counselor, Daniel.
Hi, I'm Daniel, using all pronouns, and my access needs are met.
Thanks, Daniel. Political Science Student Union Counselor, Bryden.
Hi, I'm Bryden. I use he, him pronouns, and all my access needs are met.
Thanks, Bryden. I guess we don't have anyone from our at-large membership today. So we'll go with our society staff. First on the list is our member services coordinator for clubs, Ricky.
Hey V, thanks. My name is Ricky. I am a member services coordinator. I go by he, him, and accessibility needs are all met.
Thanks, Ricky. Next on the list is our member services coordinator for clubs, Nancy.
Hi there, I'm Nancy. My pronouns are she, her, and hers, and I'm in the student center because we don't have any student staff this afternoon, so I will be majority of the time just listening in.
Thanks, Nancy. Next on the list is Melanie.
Hi, everyone. I'm Melanie. Pronouns are she, her, hers, and my access needs are met.
Thanks, Melanie. We have member services coordinator for like a journalist, Rachel.
Hi everyone, I'm Rachel, member service generalist coordinator, pronouns she, her, hers, and all my access needs are met.
Thanks, Rachel. Do we have Anna here? Anna,
yeah, I'm here.
Yes.
Yeah. Hi all, my name is Anna, pronouns she, her, hers. My access needs are met.
Thanks, Anna. Our member services coordinator for Afua. Do we have Afua?
Hi everyone, my name is Afua. My pronouns are she, her, hers. All my access needs are met.
Thanks, Afua. Our administrative assistant. Who's the admin assistant for the day? I guess we don't have any admin assistant today. That's fine. And our communications coordinator, Ilham, if we have her here today. Okay. And I assume we have our temporary operational organization. Sindhu. Yes, Sindhu is here. Sindhu, you can go next. Sindhu, you're on the next on the list.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Yes, pronouns she, her, hers. I'm just commuting between campuses, so I apologize for any background noise. Thanks.
Thanks, Sindhu. Okay. Am I missing anyone? I guess so. We are done. Paul, you can introduce yourself and then I'll probably amend the agenda to have your presentation on.
Okay. Hey, everybody. I'm Paul. I met Vibev a couple of weeks ago, 2-3 weeks ago. And then we had a short discussion about UniLife. I've been working with UniLife for just over a year now. And I'm a UFC graduate from Alberta, Calgary. And then luckily, B was able to set up this meeting with everybody here. So I'm here to present what UniLife is, give you a short presentation on it, and then answer any questions that you might have.
Thanks, Paul. So we can go to our consent agenda, and we have 4.1.1. It's matters arising from the minutes of our last committee meeting. So our last meeting was on 13th of October. So it says be it resolved to receive and file the following minutes. I'm gonna seek I'm gonna move this. Can I have a seconder?
V, you don't need a mover and seconder for the consent agenda.
Okay, thank you. So I'm gonna seek unanimous consent. If anybody wants to dissent, please list yourself in the chat or raise your hand. Seeing none, this motion is carried. I'm gonna go to the main motion, which is be it resolved to adopt the consent agenda by unanimous consent. I'm gonna again seek unanimous consent for this. If anybody wants to dissent, please list yourself in the chat or raise your hand. Helen, you can go.
Hi, just for clarity, we're at the adoption of the agenda, not the consent agenda.
We are at the consent agenda right now.
You're still, okay, my apologies. I thought you already got unanimous consent for it, but okay. My apologies.
Oh, all good. I'm gonna seek unanimous consent. If anybody wants to dissent, please list yourself in the chat or raise your hand. Seeing none, this motion is carried. Now we are going to adoption of the agenda where we can have our amendments, and everybody's welcome to make any amendments if you have any. So it says be it resolved to adopt the agenda as presented. I'm gonna again move this. Can I have a seconder?
President second.
President seconds that. I'm gonna open the floor for discussion. So Helen, you can go next.
Yeah, thank you so much. Just to ensure that procedure is in line, I'm going to move to amend the agenda to move new business under discussion items. Just in case we don't have quorum, so there is no ability to move or pass these motions under new business, but should we get quorum later during this meeting, it'll give us some time to move them if someone joins. So I'd like to move new business to under new discussion items.
Thanks, Helen. So Helen has moved to change section 10 as section 11 and section 11 as section 10. I'm going to seek a seconder for this. I'm going to second it. I'm going to open the floor for discussion. If anybody wants to say anything on this or dissent, please list yourself in the chat. Okay, I'm going to seek unanimous consent. Again, if anybody wants to dissent or say anything, please list yourself in the chat or raise your hand. Seeing none, this motion is carried. We are going back to the main motion. The floor is still open if anybody wants to make any amendments. Seeing none, we're gonna go to the vote. I'm gonna seek unanimous consent. If anybody wants to dissent, please list yourself in the chat or raise your hand. Seeing none, this motion is carried as amended. Okay, next item on the list is our presentation that is by UniLife. So Paul, it was submitted by me, but Paul is going to give the presentation. Paul, the floor is for you. You can go ahead.
Awesome. Thanks so much for organizing all this. Could you give me screen sharing ability, please?
Just a second. Are you able to share your screen now? Perfect.
Awesome. So I think everybody should be able. Yes. Okay, good. So let me know if anyone has trouble seeing the screen, but we should be good.
It's good.
Awesome. Okay. Well, so I prepared a presentation. I have a lot of extra slides at the end too. So I'm not going to go through the super long version. go through a fairly detailed version, and then I'll invite some questions, and then we can dig into specific sections based off of what type of questions you have or what type of areas you want to learn more about in general. So I already told you a little bit about myself and who I am, but you're probably wondering what uni life is. So from a high level, what we're trying to do is to bring students together on post-secondary campuses across the world. So essentially, uni life, it's a platform that supports student engagement, community building, career growth, and retention for universities. And I like to think of it as a one-stop shop for all things campus related, especially in regards to student social life and extracurricular activities. So we like to say that you can picture a student opening the app. They have something that they're looking for, some sort of social opportunity or experience, and then they're easily able to find that opportunity within the app. And feel free to cut me off. I can't see the chat screen, by the way, so I don't know if you're asking questions. This should only be like 10 minutes, and then we can do a ton of questions. So we always like to start off by saying, imagine you're a new student and you're coming to SFU. Maybe you're coming from another city or maybe even another country. So usually you don't really know many people. It could be a brand new city for you. It's definitely a brand new environment. You don't know where to find things, what clubs there are, and what things you can do on campus in general. And yeah, this may be super exciting, but at the same time, it's actually quite daunting for students as well. And so with all these factors coming at students, there seems to be a lot of problem with students finding the support that they need to meet other students, join clubs, learn certain skills, or get involved with the campus and the community in general. And so why does this matter? Well, a big thing that we're noticing nowadays is that these types of issues lead to mental health complaints where students struggle and they have this feeling of loneliness, and they end up actually needing more support from the university in terms of resources. We notice that there's communication issues, given that students are receiving lots of information from many different sources. And so it leads to them missing out on crucial information or simply just opportunities that they'd actually like to get involved with. And as these feelings manifest and as these issues arise, we notice that students are actually tending to drop out of university either after their first year or even sometimes after their second year. And so why is this important? Why is it important for students to get involved with extracurricular activities and the campus community in general? Well, there's a lot of research that shows students who are generally happier and more involved with campus opportunities perform better academically. And this leads to, as you would expect, an increase in retention, and then of course, graduation rates. Students also who have a friend group but are struggling academically, they are more likely to work harder to try and stay at that university, which kind of makes sense because obviously, if you have your friend group at the university, you may not be doing the best academically, you're going to put in a serious effort to make sure you can stay there with them and that you can finish your university experience with them. And so does uni life solve this? So the answer is yes, we do. So all these numbers are based off of our current partner universities, where 74% of students find it easier to meet new people, 61% feel more connected to their university, and 60% are able to discover and attend more activities. And so now you might be wondering, how does uni life work? Of course, I got a lot more detailed information on all of these 3 separate pieces, but essentially we have the platform. So that would be our CMS, our content management system, and our app. Then we also have the community management team, which is a crucial component to how we work with universities. And then we have the data insights that we provide to organizations. So the platform, on the left-hand side here, you see the CMS. So this is your content management system. This is where the university, where clubs, where organizations and faculties manage and edit everything that exists within the app. So here they can upload files that may be relevant to the club. They can add members, remove members, and they can basically control all of the content that belongs on the app. Obviously, in regards to their specific permissions, a club can control their club-related content. The university as a whole can control the platform as a whole. Faculty is their faculty-related content, and so on. The back end is just university, club, organization, and faculty-facing. So students don't see the back end at all. Then on the right-hand side, we have the front end. So this is the mobile application itself. So this is the student-facing application. So here we get things like events and activities. You have all your clubs and organizations there. You have all your news. We have a buddy system where students who are looking to meet other friends can participate in our buddy system. Clubs can send push notifications about news or events or any sort of relevant information to their followers. Students can, choose to follow clubs or not, and that allows them to kind of stay up to date with what that club's doing, be notified when that club notifies, and get all the information that they would need in regards to student life. Some other features as well that we can dive into. The CMS itself, we already spoke about this, so I'm not going to go over it in too much detail, but you can do things like verified documentation. This is where you upload your news and announcements, events, of course, associations and clubs. Once they're confirmed, this is what they use. And this is essentially just the overview of the app itself. But then we can also integrate this CMS with any sort of API integrations that your university has. You might already know some of these, you might not, but essentially we have an open API that allows us to tap into whatever other systems that are existing and either pull content from there or push content there. So maybe like your event calendar, for example, the common one that we're doing. Front-end application, essentially students register an account, they set up their profile, they customize the type of content that they want to see. So whatever sort of interest that they have. Some students like nightlife, some students don't. Other students are interested in sports and other students are not. So we want to make sure that we can kind of customize the experience that you're getting so you get relevant content. We already talked about some of these features, but you can host meetups. You can start your own communities in the app. We have official student-run clubs, and then we also have students that want to start a community just around like a general topic that multiple students are interested in. So we want to give them that flexibility. So that was the application. We talked about CMS, the front end. We also have the community team, which I think is one of the most crucial components to UniLife. So essentially, our community team is built up of a community manager. This community manager works with the university, has regular in-person meetings with the university. They help with the setup and the launch of UniLife. They ensure students are active on UniLife, and they work together very closely with the brand ambassador on campus as well. So we always have 2 people working per partner university. Any sort of questions about UniLife can go through them. They help students know how to use it. They help clubs know how to use it. They help the university itself with posting content, encouraging students to use it, with strategy, and with some of the data as well, which we'll talk about. So we also have the brand ambassador. Like I said, they work very closely with the community manager. So brand ambassador is always a local student to that university, which is very important because they know the university a lot better than we would know the university. So it's a local student, we hire them, they work about 8 hours per week. They're just a part-time student, they work with UniLife, and they essentially help with all this promotional related material. Very close contact with organizations, clubs, SU. They promote on campus physically, they upload content, they monitor content, and everything that's required in order to make the app a success. So we like to always say that we don't just give you this platform and then we're done, see you later, bye. We actively encourage students and help them to use the platform so that they can actually get value from it. which is why I think the community team is so important. We could talk about what the community team actually does, but we can go into more detail if you want to learn more about the community team altogether. But of course, they train people on how to use the platform, train students on how to use the platform as well, make sure content is moderated and uploaded. And we actually like to say that we can guarantee 95% of all content on your campus is going to be uploaded to the app. The heavy lifting of that is done through the community team and making sure those things are updated. Okay. So we also provide data insights. So this would be the third aspect to our platform. So you may always be wondering, how are students actually using this app? Are they actually going to these events? Are they happy with the app? Are they even opening the app? And we give a monthly data dashboard. We can even prepare it bi-weekly. Some universities want that. But essentially, we give a monthly data dashboard that shows interaction with the app. So it shows how many students have been using the app, what type of interests are more common versus not, how happy are students with the app, and any other sort of information that the university cares about. We can customize this data dashboard per university. So we kind of have a general approach where we give some standard insights to universities. But then, of course, since we work pretty closely with the university, some have different priorities than others. And so we want to make sure that we include that in this dashboard. So are universities happy? Yes. So these are some of our partner universities and the things that they've said about us. And pricing, of course, I have to include that as well. So I have more slides explaining the breakdown of all this. But as a whole, this is the pricing that we're looking at. This is based off of our current existing model that we use in Europe. And this is per year pricing. We usually do 3 years, but we know there's some universities that want to sign for 5 years, for example. And now I always like to finish off by saying, now imagine that a student who comes to your campus is able to get involved with all the opportunities that they care about, is able to find the friends that they need and want, and is able to get the most out of the university experience. Our dream ambition is that a student is so proud when they're done graduating to their university that they wear the university's logo wherever they are to show the amount of fun and great time that they had at that university. And so that's what we're working towards with UniLife. And yep, that's pretty much it. So I'm more than happy to dive into any of the topics that I talked about. So if you have any questions, feel free to unmute yourself or write a message.
Thanks, Paul. I'm gonna open the floor for questions now. Anybody who has any questions, I will request all the coordinators, since you interact with students the most on a daily basis. So if you have any questions, this is the time. Okay, Student Society, I don't know who the person is, but yeah, you can go next.
Thanks, Paul. I think we've seen stuff like this presented to us in the past, and I think one of the biggest things right now is I noticed that in your presentation, a lot of it's based off of SFU, and the Student Society is quite a different entity compared to the university itself. Is the expectation that you guys are primarily working with the Student Society, or are you guys planning to work with the university and the Student Society? And is there like a discrepancy in the pricing that was presented to us? Because it was $46,000 per year for usually 3 years. If you're working with multiple partners, what is the expectation there?
No, so that would be the general price with working with the university as a whole, whether it's just with the SU or with the SU and the university. So I think if the university wants to get involved as well and use the platform, we're more than happy to let them use it. but our pricing is really just a fixed price. It's never, because I know some other platforms exist out there where they price based off of like the amount of students that are using it. And that's not the case with us. So that's the fixed price for the SU in particular, or if the university wants to join on board as well.
Right. And that, I think the part that I'm trying to get at is we wouldn't need all the services. The SFSS wouldn't need all the services involved with faculty and all that stuff. So we'd just be focusing primarily on clubs and DSUs. So I was just seeing if there's any change in the pricing based on that, because it's quite a different looking contract if it's just clubs and DSUs, right?
Yeah, that's a fair
The second
question.
part is I noticed you mentioned that there's going to be a communities team. Sorry, I've got a few questions here.
No, please. I invite all your questions.
And how does the content updating work? Because for us, we're union based, so having community individuals that are contracted out sort of goes against our collective agreement. So, like, how is the content updates supposed to work? And does it integrate with our calendars and our event submissions that we have? Like, how does that all link up?
Yeah, absolutely. So, so the backend here, to answer the last question that you had, is it does integrate with your calendar. So we're able to take all those events, but essentially every club at the university, or even the SU itself, I guess if we're thinking just SU, the SU would be the master account, but every club can log into this backend portal. And here's where they upload events and push them to the app. Here's where they send notifications, upload documentation, and upload everything that automatically gets pushed to the app. So it's the backend system that clubs use. And here is also where the brand ambassadors, for example, they also keep an eye on this and make sure that any events that they see that are missing are uploaded through this platform and end up in the app.
So it would essentially be an additional platform that clubs and SUs would have to log into to update their information and plug it all in, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So it, of course, if you already have an event calendar and you want to pull information from that event calendar, we're more than happy to do that. But essentially, one of the platforms is going to need to get used in order to push content to the app, whether it's the existing event calendar platform. I don't know what that is, if there is one, or whether it's the CMS on our end.
Right. Yeah, I think from what we see, it's an additional platform that the club executives will have to do separately, because we don't necessarily have all of our events plugged into our calendar. It's primarily the SFSS's internal / like events committee events that get plugged into that calendar. So it'd be a little bit differently. And my last question is, I noticed that there's a like interaction or like a buddy meetup system there. I am just thinking of like potential worst case scenario where harassment is claimed through that system. Who's liable?
So when the student signs up, they sign up with their university email, and then they agree to whatever sort of documentation that the university needs them to run through. So here in the CMS is where you can control like the uploading of you are responsible for everything that happens on the UniLife platform if you're signing up with your UniLife email. Every university is different. They have different like requirements that they want students to sign off on before using the app. So it's really up to you as a association. Do you want the student to be liable for any sort of harassment if they're using the platform with their SFU email? If that's the case, then that's something that you can upload and make sure students agree to before using the platform.
Okay. I see Anna has some questions as well. Thank you.
Yep.
Anna, go ahead.
Hi, I have a question and it's more for the exec team. I was wondering if the student body has raised the need for a tool or a platform like that, and if so, what are specific features that the current SFU website, app, and system and our website and portal are lacking that they're looking for? Because we have tried utilizing a platform similar to this one in the past, and it did not meet as much use as we were expecting to. And Sindhu can elaborate on that because she was there. I actually was on mat leave during that time, but it's like we have used into this, we have looked into this extensively in the past, and I'm wondering what is it that the student body kind of needs right now, and what did they express specifically?
Thanks, Anna. So answering to this question, what I have felt in the past is basically like all the clubs, events, and all the student unions events are kind of scattered. They promote it on their social media, but we send it to the student body through our, I think so, our SFSS newsletter too, right?
Sorry, V, I'll quickly respond to that. It is up to the club and the student union to request that it's promoted in the newsletter. So it's not necessarily always posted in the newsletter.
Sounds good. So this is something like that can bring all of the events together in one place, and like students can just go and check out like what's happening today. And especially like it might be easier for us as well, like you to take a note of like how many people attended, or we could have like something like that in the system. I think so it's tailored software, right, Paul? If we can have like something from the statistics, like how many people joined and what were the expenses, so like everything like that can be kept in one place strategically. So this was something in my mind. Again, this is purely a discussion, and this is here to bring everybody's perspective, and we all are learning for sure. So yes, I hope this answers some part of your question, Anna.
Yes, thank you. So it's mostly events.
And yes, and making it easier for our like team to take a stats of like how much are we paying, how much is like how much are the attendance, and what's like the overall kind of turnout ratio for the event or the other things basically.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Welcome. Okay, the floor is still open for questions. Everybody's welcome to list in the chat. Counselors, do you want to ask anything? Okay, seeing none, I think so that was it. Thank you so much, Paul.
Thank you.
I'll be in touch soon once we our like management and our staff members we decide on like how we're gonna proceed forward. And if we need anything from you, I'll probably give you a heads up before. And that's pretty much it for today, I guess. Thank you so much for coming up.
Awesome.
Have a wonderful day.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks so much, everybody, for making the time for this.
Take care.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you. See you.
Thank you, Paul.
Okay. Going back to the agenda, so we are done with our presentation. So since we have changed the series of the agenda today, so we are going to go with our discussion items before our new business. And I can see like most of the new business items are just taking the things that we discussed last time to exec meeting, right? So I can take it, I think so, without the passing of these motions as well. So we can go with the discussions. So it's the first one is 11.1, further changes to the club terms of reference and funding guidelines. This is submitted by our member services coordinator for clubs, Melanie. Melanie, you have the floor.
Thanks, Fee. So I think I'll do what I did last time. I'll share my screen with everyone and then I'll pull up the document so we can all see what we're looking at. Oh, sorry, could you give me permission to share?
Melanie, you should be good to go, I guess.
Okay. Can you guys see my screen? Okay, awesome. So I think maybe we'll start with the funding guidelines first. So there were a lot of changes last time and those were all highlighted in yellow so we could easily see what changes were new compared to the information that was already there before. But since there were a ton of changes we added after that meeting a few weeks ago, I've highlighted these new changes in blue. So we're just going to go over the changes in blue and not the ones in yellow again. So the first big change we did is adding this table into the document. This was something that was part of a separate document we had called Funding 101, and it just goes over the types of accounts and how to access the funding and general rules, just so it's pretty clear. It's just kind of a snapshot for students to see, and we thought it might be helpful just to have it at the beginning. Yeah, so just let me know if there's any thoughts on that.
Melanie, I would just request you to give us like 2 minutes to go through this and then we can proceed.
Yeah, of course.
I think so. I have gone through it. If anybody else wants some more time, please let me know. Okay, we can go ahead.
Okay, so I think that part's good then. The next change that we had was just this note here about insufficient funding. So if a group incurs event charges from SFU MEX that exceeds the amount of grant funding approved and the balance of their other funds, such as resource funding, petty cash, or core, the outstanding charges will be deducted from their trust account. And if the trust account does not have sufficient funds to cover the costs, the group will be asked to make a deposit into the account to offset the negative balance. This is something we've already been doing, by the way, it just wasn't written down.
Melanie, I have a question. I'm just going through it right now and I can't find it anywhere, but do we have it written somewhere? Maybe you remember about applying for one grant per event so that groups don't apply for like multiple grants for the same events if it's with multiple groups. Do we have it somewhere?
That's a good question. I don't think that's written down anywhere.
Oh, right. Can we write it actually? Because I'm having a lot of these happen these days. And I'm like, it's written there because we've always had that rule, and then I can't find it anywhere.
Yeah, definitely that's something we can add. I think generally for clubs, we don't usually see that problem, but yeah, definitely for student unions, I can see that that could be an issue.
Yeah, they all like collaborate together, and then they start applying for separate grants for the same event.
Actually, sorry, that does happen sometimes. Clubs do a joint event and then they'll submit 2 different grants. And so one grant might be asking for like food and stuff, and the other one is like focused on like venue costs and other things. So we don't ask for the same expenses to be covered, but yeah, so that has been something that we're allowing, like, but you think that we shouldn't?
Well, because for student unions, at least the ones that I've seen lately, they're very confusing. Like, it's a mess. And then you have to like email all of them and ask, so how much food are you actually getting? And how are you getting it? Because they write different things. One says it's going to be catered. Another one says that it's going to be self-catered. You know, like it's a mess. And then you're waiting forever for all of them to reply. And then you're trying to like see the big picture of what the food's actually going to look like and what the attendance is actually going to look like. And they all have different ideas. And they all take their time replying. So I've been having a lot of difficult time like reviewing these grants. So we've actually not allowed this at all for student unions ever because of how complicated it gets.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Thanks, Anna. I think so. Somebody has listed. Nancy, you can go next.
I think with Anna's case, he is slightly different than the clubs. The clubs, one group might be asking for funding for the venue, and then the other group asks money for the food. But your group, it sounds like your DSUs, the same, they're asking for food,
Yeah.
you know, or both of them.
Well,
And
we could make that a rule. We can ask, we can say that if multiple groups are working on the same event, if you want different grant applications, then they must be for different expenses or something like that. Then yes, then it's kind of, you know, it's a little bit easier to manage in that case. Do you think that would work?
I think that would work.
Okay.
But I mean, your DSUs might be slightly different than the way that the clubs do it. Sorry.
Well, as long as we have some rule written somewhere that they cannot be like 5 groups applying for the same food and making a total mess. Like, I think we can work with different grants for different expenses, like what you're saying. Like, we can work with that. So I don't know, Melanie, do you want me to like try and write this somewhere? But we do need to accept this version of the guidelines today, right?
We can always more amendment.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, MSC3 has listed. So Melanie, that's you, right?
Oh, yeah, that's me. Yeah, so, okay, well, yeah, I'm not sure about that. Maybe we can make that revision and then I could send that over to V afterwards. Is that okay?
Yeah, it's fine with me, but if we're, you know, if we can approve it now, if that's what we're doing.
Okay, I'm like working out the PDF right now and stuff, but so it's kind of hard to make the changes right now. But I wanted to kind of continue that discussion just because I am thinking almost like, what's the purpose of 2 groups like working together, submitting separate grants? When it just, like, I do think now that maybe it is more simple and straightforward if it is just 1 grant per event. Like, why just,
we've always had it, yeah.
Yeah, like, why put decorations in a separate grant from catering? Why not just put it into one and have one of the groups kind of be the main point of contact? Yeah, I'm starting to think that makes more sense.
It's actually more complicated for me because of the core. in their core contributions than for you folks. For you, it would be much easier, right? Because you don't require them to contribute anything.
Right.
Yeah.
But even now I think about how for some events, like we have to make a lot of revisions based on their like venue and catering and like AV requests and all these things that keep on changing. And so it's kind of complicated if you've got like several different grants that you have to go in and like edit all these things that have changed. So I'm not sure, like Ricky, Nancy, Rachel, if you have any thoughts on that.
Can I quickly chime in here? I know I listed, but I'm just gonna jump in real quick. The reason why it happens a lot is because clubs want to share the funding and they want to get more out of their funding based on some of the limitations that we have. Sometimes timelines is a big part of it too. If they're collaborating and they don't really want to submit 20 days in advance, they'll try to circumvent that with splitting up the grants a little bit and trying to get things approved faster. Yeah, I've seen a couple where one club has submitted 2 grants for the same event, but that one, it was more a matter of they forgot to request for certain things, and it does happen from time to time. But a lot of the ones that are collaborations amongst clubs, they'll typically split the cost to try to get more out of it, or they just have resource funding and trust accounts that they want to dip into, and they don't want to utilize all that before asking for a grant first. Go ahead, Mel.
Melanie, you have the floor.
Yeah, like that makes sense, but then if we're making it a rule that you can't ask for the same type of expenses in 2 different grants, then that kind of removes the benefit of submitting 2 different grants to try to get more funding to overcome those limitations. Like if you're only allowed to submit catering in 1 grant, then it wouldn't really help to try to submit 2 grants with catering to try to get more money. And in terms of like making changes, if they forgot to put something in the grant, instead of having one of the other clubs like then submit a second grant for the things they forgot, they can just ask us to add them. As long as the grant hasn't been approved yet, that they can do that.
Okay. Anybody who wants to answer this here? Guess this needs a little more discussion because it's not as simple as it looks like.
Yeah, it seems like we should discuss it a little bit more then.
Yes.
For the next revision.
Ricky, you have the floor.
Yeah, I was hoping just to ask that maybe we shelve that one aspect of it for now and just proceed with these revisions and get these revisions approved first. I think I don't really want to see all these revisions get shelved as well alongside with that one. Ultimately, it should have been something that we discussed way back when we were looking at revising this document. So
yeah, totally. We've discussed it like years ago, and that's why I thought that it was written somewhere, and I kept looking for it and couldn't find it. But yeah, we definitely wouldn't want to stall the revisions approval because of this. So we can take that off and discuss later.
Sounds good. Okay. Any further discussion on this? Okay. Seeing none, Melanie, you can carry on with the document.
All right, thanks. So just to clarify then, there are no issues with the insufficient funding part. Okay. The next section that had a lot of changes was under apparel and branded items. So we added that categories cannot be combined to receive more funding. So for example, because we have separate categories for t-shirts and hoodies, you can't categorize t-shirts and hoodies as large merch items so that you can get more money for it. So they can't get like 300 plus the 200 for t-shirts. And also just change the wording to large merchandise items and small merchandise items. I think before it said something like larger items and smaller items, which was like it's a bit subjective.
Sounds good.
Okay, should I move on to the next section?
Yes, thank you.
And then under food, we had some more revisions. So I think we want to remove this part that says that the food funding includes groceries for cooking, as long as there's a valid food permit and at least one member who is assisting with the food preparation, who possesses a valid food safe certification. We talked about having, saying that funding for bake sales, potlucks, and other home cooked meals will not be funded. I think the exception would be like if they're having a barbecue, that will be funded only if the group has a valid food permit approved by Fraser Health and the members preparing the food possess a valid food safe certification. There's just a difference between like a barbecue versus having an event where people are cooking things at home and then bringing them to like an event. There's just a lot more risk, we think, involved with people preparing things in their own kitchens, and they don't necessarily like have the supervision or preparing things properly. That's why we changed that.
Nancy, you can go ahead.
Sorry, I was kind of out of this. It's also the transportation. So if people are bringing in food, they cook from home. How do you know it's been kept at the right temperature? Like, we don't want, like Melanie says, you know, we're trying to avoid any food poisoning at all. So the community kitchen, if it, you know, if, I mean, it is apparently bookable for club groups, for groups themselves to be able to use.
So I'm wondering, like, if somebody brings the food that is pre-cooked from home, I feel like that's something really risky too, because we don't know which conditions they were made under. Anybody else has anything to say on this? Have we been allowing people like from clubs and student unions to have pre-cooked food at their events, like from home, like potlucks and other things?
Can I answer that?
Yes, yes, of course.
I don't think it's really common. Most of the time people just like order their food or buy it. So we haven't really run into that issue. But we do just kind of want to have it down in writing. Oh, also, I think Rachel listed.
Rachel, you can go next.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, just to follow with what Melanie said as well. Yeah, we haven't been approving like the pre-cooked food because with like the concerns about like food safe and then people like bringing in like their own food. I know earlier in the fall, we were also discussing, how we're not like approving bake sales anymore, as it's just like a huge like liability on the club. You can't really gauge what type of like kitchen it was like prepared in, as well as in general, just with like the groceries for cooking. At the end of the day, like their event could be anything. And within like the end of the semester, clubs could also take this to their advantage and also just purchase groceries for themselves or like the other people within the group, and they might actually not be having an event. So I just wanted to flag that.
Thanks, Rachel. Melanie, I guess you can proceed with the document then.
All right, thank you. The next part is just also under food. So I think this was 500 before, and we just wanted to increase it a little bit. Just as the prices of things are going up, it can get more expensive. But also something we wanted to add was that funding for food and snacks cannot be approved for the same event. So either you get funding for food or you get funding for snacks. We just found that it was getting to be a bit too expensive when there were a lot of groups requesting grants and asking for food and snacks, like to the max amount for each event.
If anybody doesn't have any questions on this, Melanie, you can proceed.
Okay, thanks. So the next part is just relating to what we said earlier under fundraising, that bake sales won't be funded. They won't be allowed due to the risks associated with food allergens and food safety, in addition to some conflicts with SFU vendors. Yeah, so oh wait, sorry, I thought that was it. There's one more. Under printing, we also increased the banners up to 400. It used to be 300, but the prices, if we're requiring them to print the banners at SFU Document Solutions, the prices have gone up, and there's also the tax that's added onto that.
Sounds good.
Okay, I think that's it for the funding guidelines.
Thanks, Melanie. I guess if anybody has any questions, please feel free to ask. Otherwise, like, we have just one amendment that we discussed, and after that, I'll take it to exec committee.
Next, that was part of, I guess, the same discussion, but also some quick revisions to the club terms of reference. So one change we wanted to have was under membership and suspension of membership. So previously, clubs are required to have a minimum of 10 confirmed members, and we want to increase that to 20, just because we're finding that often there will be students who just, have a group of their friends and then they try to start a club so they can hang out and get free snacks and that kind of thing. But it's not an actual club that is truly centered around like meeting new people and, building a community. So I think increasing this threshold will just make it more likely that the clubs that are being formed are actually genuine.
I have a quick question on this.
Sure.
Do you think 20 is a big number for starting a club?
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Keep it to 15 or something? Or sometimes 20 is like sometimes a little too much. Like if there's a club, like I would say this club that's not like really popular, like for a club that is really popular, everybody would like to join it and be a part of it. But like for some clubs, like that are not really popular but have like a discrete kind of membership, they will just have a few people willing to join. So I feel like it should be 15 rather than 20. 20 is still a big number. Nancy, you have the floor.
Thank you, V. Okay, I prefer 20 because then we know they're really serious about the club. We've had so many clubs lately that have only had the bare minimum and they're gone. Like after, 1 year, not even, it's not working anymore. So, the brand new club that has a 10, you get a $400 banner, then it's gone within a year. To me, 20, then it shows that it is serious and people are really serious about the club and they will keep it going.
Sounds reasonable. Yes, like, yeah, I agree. Some clubs just come up and then disappears, especially like we had a request by someone who was willing to start those transit enthusiasts group or something like that. Yeah, I would think like that club to be disappearing in like couple of months, like after those people are graduated. So yes, makes sense. Next on our list is MSc3. Melanie, yeah, you can go next.
Yeah, adding on to that also, I think we also like did a bit of research, and at UBC AMS, if you want to start a club, they require 20. And so just for comparison, like I guess that kind of makes sense along with everything that Nancy stated as well.
Sounds good. Okay. Anybody else wants to discuss anything on this, or otherwise, like Melanie, you can proceed.
Okay.
Okay. Yes. Good to go.
The next change was just adding that membership. So it's only open to all undergraduate SFU students in good standing. We added defined under registered members in SFSS bylaw 2. Because in that bylaw, there are also associate members who are not SFU undergraduate students. So just wanted to add that extra bit of clarity, even though it does already say that they have to be undergraduate SFU students. Okay, so moving on. Under executives, so a person is eligible to run for an executive position if they meet the following criteria. We added are not employed by the SFSS, as that is a conflict of interest for someone to be working at the SFSS, but also a club executive, because as staff, you do have power and like over the clubs, and you have like those interactions with the clubs. So you shouldn't be like processing your own requests and things like that.
Okay. So I have a question on this. Like if somebody is working in the building team, or like if somebody is working in the admin team, like admin assistants or the building assistants, like those are students most of the time. So how will that be counted as like how will like in what form will they be getting a favor from SFSS being an employee if they want to go for an exec position for a club or something?
I guess there's, oh wait, sorry, Rachel's listed.
Rachel, you can. You have
Yeah, no problem. I can speak on this pretty directly because I worked at the SFSS a long time, and I was a club executive at some points within my undergrad. And just being like an SFSS employee in general and having access to a lot of like the club information as well as like the club portals. One thing is that like SFSS staff members, like for example, say like you're an exec in is like submitting like a room booking request. It's not very correct if like you're an executive of that club and then you're also managing like the room booking as an SFSS employee. So you're basically able to like, I'm not saying that like I was or anything, but you're able to like speed up like your own process and gain like advantage, like just being like a staff member, because you know everything about the booking like already. You're able to just like manage it on your own end, and ultimately like it's like an unfair advantage to other clubs, and it just doesn't seem equal. So yeah, if Melanie listed too.
Melanie, you can go next.
Yes. Yeah, thanks for elaborating on that, Rachel. That's definitely true. And in terms of like other staff who don't work in the student center, though, there's still that conflict of interest. I guess the building assistants do still like have interaction with club executives and like accessing lockers and storage rooms and everything. And also, I guess like admin assistants as well. Like if they're in meetings where like club matters are being discussed, it is still a conflict or potential for conflict there.
Makes more sense. Thanks, Melanie. Thanks, Rachel.
Could we move on to the next one?
If anybody has any questions, feel free to list. Otherwise, we can go ahead. Okay, nobody.
We also added that club executive positions must be appropriately named to indicate the general function of the role. For example, like the treasurer is a person who deals with club finances. And that seems pretty obvious, but we just added that because we were noticing that some clubs were giving their executives titles that were just a bit confusing and had nothing to do with what they actually do. So it was unclear to really understand what their role was in the club. Okay, I think that's pretty straightforward. So I'll move on to the next one. So this was relating to earlier, we changed it to 20 instead of 10 confirmed members. So that was just the same thing. And that's it for the club terms of reference.
That is it. Do we have one more document? We have one more document, I guess, right?
Yes. So this was like a new one. It's a completely new document. It's not making revisions to previous ones that we've discussed.
So this is for the club approval terms of reference too, right?
Yes.
Go ahead.
So this is a terms of reference that is only for the club approval process. So prior to becoming a club, we need to first like review all the proposals and then figure out if it is something that we can accept and approve so that they become an official club. So I think I'll just go through and like read them out, and maybe we can go through each number and pause if there's any issues. So the SFSS club approval terms of reference outlines the rules that govern the approval of clubs at the Simon Fraser Student Society. Club proposals are reviewed and approved at the discretion of member services club coordinators and or the SFSS executive and council. The rejection of a club proposal is final. Club proposals will be approved on the basis that they are formed with the intention of bringing together SFU undergraduate and or FIC students who share a common interest specific to the mandate of the club. Proposals will not be unreasonably denied. However, clubs may be rejected based on various factors, including but not limited to. Number one, the students who are forming the club are not currently enrolled SFU undergraduate students or SFSS members in good standing. That is, they are graduate students, non-SFU students, SFU departmental staff, FIC students without a letter of acceptance from SFU, and external community members. Okay, should I proceed to the next one?
Yes.
The students who are forming the club were solicited by a third-party organization to form the club and are being overseen and governed by the third-party organization. Okay, should I move on? The club does not have sufficient club executives, minimum 2, and sufficient club members, minimum 20. There is a conflict of interest between the SFSS and any of the students forming the club or any of the organizations with which the club is affiliated. For example, SFSS staff and executives and council members may not form clubs during the course of their employment or terms in office. Should I move on? The club proposal conflicts with or does not adhere to the SFSS bylaws, SFSS policies, SFSS issues policies, SFU policies, and the SFSS club terms of reference. 6, the SFSS insurance providers have declined the coverage of the proposed mandate or activities of the club. 7, the club proposes or focuses on an activity that is better covered or currently exists under an SFU department or SFU recreation, as well as any activities or services that are covered under existing SFSS departments or programs. Number 8, the approval of the club may increase the risk of harassment, violence, or misconduct toward the club executives, membership, or event attendees based on its affiliations or connotations. 9, the club mandate explicitly incites hate or discriminatory practices, or the club is started out of malicious intent. Clubs cannot be started in protest of an existing club.
Melanie, I have a question on this one.
Sure.
So when we say malicious intent, what do we infer by that?
I guess the club is created to kind of try to cause harm or to, yeah, like, for example, if someone was opposing like a political club, and they wanted to, you know, they were opposing the liberals or something, they wouldn't be allowed to start like an anti-liberal club.
Thank you.
I'll move on to the next one. Number 10, the club proposal includes illegal or questionable activities such as gambling or street racing, etc. There are many examples of illegal activities, but we won't list them all. Number 11, the club activities support or involve a for-profit business, or the club is a front for a for-profit business or external third-party organization. Number 12, the club name includes profanity or any other offensive words. Number 13, the club mandate is too narrow to the point of being exclusionary and is not open and accessible to all SFU undergraduate students. The club cannot be focused on a specific project, event, course, or competition. Number 14, the club mandate cannot be sustained for more than one semester. That is, it is created for a one-time event or project. Number 15, there is an existing active club with a similar mandate and an overlap in activities. 16, the club's mandate is unclear or vague and is not supported by the proposed activities. Number 17, the club proposal is incomplete and the group did not provide sufficient information about the club. Number 18, the SFSS has exceeded the number of clubs it can support in a given area or category. And then just at the bottom, it says the SFSS reserves the right to modify or update these terms of reference without notice.
That looks good to me. Anybody, any questions? Anyone? If not, I guess that document is good to go.
All right, awesome, thank you. So we'll send this along to you as well to get approved by exec.
Sounds good. Melanie, I have a quick request, like if you can join the exec meeting that day.
Sure.
Any clarification questions, like I will need someone to answer some of the specific questions. So
Yes, I can do that. When is the meeting?
we just had one last week, and next week is a long weekend, so probably the week following the next week.
The 18th.
Yes, I don't remember the date exactly. Yes, should be 18. Yes, 18.
Okay, sounds good. And should I join like whole meeting, or is there a time during which you'll be like talking about this, the changes?
I have to see the agenda, like what items are there before us, and then I
Okay.
can let you know about that.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else for anything that we need to discuss in this meeting? Otherwise, I guess that was the last thing that we had to discuss, and we can first, since we don't have the quorum, we won't go to the new business, but I will move to postpone the new business items to the next meeting. Can I have a seconder?
Physics.
Physics second that. I'm gonna seek unanimous consent. I'm gonna open the floor for discussion if anybody wants to say anything on that. Okay, Seeing none, I'm gonna open the floor for voting. Seeking unanimous consent. If anybody wants to dissent, please list yourself in the chat. Seeing none, this motion is carried. Okay, so finally we are here to the adjournment section. So it says it resolves to adjourn the meeting at 1:31 p.m. I'm gonna move this. Can I have a seconder?
Physics.
Physics second that. Open full floor for discussion. Seeing none, I'm gonna take this to a vote. Seeking unanimous consent. If anybody wants to dissent, please list yourself in the chat or raise your hand. Seeing none, this motion is carried. I'm gonna stop the recording.